Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another Dissida Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video, and today we're going to do a little bit of a beginner's guide. So I did a beginner's guide earlier on basically how to max out characters. I feel like the game is so complex, to do it all in one video would be pretty crazy. So I'm trying to break these beginner guides into smaller videos. So the last video I did on how to max out characters did very, very well, and there were requests for more beginner guides. So what I thought I would do is kind of start at the beginning. And what this video is going to be about is basically what should you be first doing when you start a new account. One thing I just want to throw out a little disclaimer. I'm going to link my other video on how to max out characters because that's going to be very relevant to a new player, because one of the things I'm going to recommend is that you build up a team to start. One disclaimer is in that last video, it was brought to my attention I forgot to talk about blooms. So blooms are something else you need to max out. I might, maybe at the end of this video, I'll just show you guys about blooms a little bit since I forgot to in the last video. But I really didn't feel like recording the whole last video again because I forgot about blooms. But yeah, so blooms are a thing as well. So when you get a new account, we'll start by looking at like the banner and like what should you be looking to summon for when you first start an account, right? So if you click on the side here, you'll go into draws and shops. Now, what's going to happen is, as a new player, you're going to get something called a Start Dash banner, and it's going to have limited time on it. You won't be able to see it on my account because I don't have a Start Dash banner available. Depending on when you are starting the game, the Start Dash banner could be better or worse depending on when. The main thing with Opera Omnia is every character basically goes through cycles of when they're good and when they're not good. So any characters you get, even if they're not good now, they're going to be good at some point. What I love about Opera Omnia is it's constantly like reworking characters, giving them buffs, making them stronger, and then they keep coming back. So I think I really, really like that. But if you're looking to get kind of like the best value as a new player, typically you just want to summon on one of the normal event banners. Now, I can't tell you what banner to summon on because I don't know what is available when you're playing. But I would say you could just do a little bit of research. But basically we're in a mode right now where like every character is like very good, so like you really won't go wrong, and they do a pretty good job of making the banners have like a good mix of like DPS, support, and utility characters. So if you kind of just pick a banner, I would kind of go all in on that one banner and just try to build a team off that banner. Realistically, you want to try to have 75,000 to 125,000 if you really want to go all in, so that way you could like fully pity like the characters on the banner. So that's why I recommend your strategy should be like, as a new player, pick a banner, maybe research it a little bit, but go all in on that banner. Don't spread out on a bunch of banners unless you get really lucky and get all the stuff, right? But in terms of how to max out your characters, I'm just going to reference that video in a link. So at the end of the video, you'll see a link to click over to that, and you can go ahead and watch that video on how to actually max out your characters. So basically, as a new player, you're going to start off, they're going to give you some characters to start, you're going to earn characters through the story, but you're basically going to work on just building up a team while basically playing like quest mode and some other basic modes to build up resources. So as a new player, what your concern is really is clearing a lot of content quickly, getting a lot of resources to build up your account as fast as possible. So if we click on this tab on the right side here, mainly you're going to be going to the quest tab. So I'm going to go ahead and click on quest here. And at the bottom, I'm basically going to just kind of go through each of these tabs. So when you go in here, the background, this is the story. So this, you don't click on any of the tabs at the bottom. The main story is just here in the background. Now in the upper left, you'll see there's an Act 1, an Act 2, and an Act 3. As a new player, you probably won't see all that. You're going to just start on Act 1. You are going to see, guys, as a new player, there is a ton of content for you to grind. So pretty much anything you want as a new player, you can get it for free, as long as you're willing to grind out resources, because this game does have a fairly generous pity system, in my opinion, right? So let's say we click on Act 1. When you go into Act 1, you're going to see, so this background right now is you're seeing everything in Act 1. So in Act 1, we've got all these little islands or different chapters, right? So if I click on just like this Chapter 8 here, you're going to see that there are tons of like little nodes and little stages to do. So there's so much, and you get gems for all of this for your first clear, right? My big piece of advice to you is this. In the upper left, you'll see where it says the word normal in green, and then it says hard on in orange. Basically, every stage has a hard and normal mode, and you get gems for both. One update that Opera Omnia did was they made it so that if you clear something on hard, you automatically get the gems for doing it on normal. So even as a brand new player, if you follow some of the steps in the original, in that maxing character guide, you don't have to max out characters, but if you just like level them up just a little bit, you can play hard mode right away. Especially on like Chapter 1. Like the stages are so easy. The enemies are so underleveled, even in hard. Basically, I recommend you go into chapter 1, start playing through the nodes on hard as soon as you feel like you can, bring a friend unit, and you can auto battle through. And the game does have a very good auto system, so when you go in the battle, you'll just see an auto button at the bottom. But you just start autoing through on hard, you're going to get double rewards for every stage you beat, and you can just sit in like auto grind like while watching a movie and just grind story mode. That's really one of the things I'm going to recommend you do as a new player. Okay. The other thing that I'm going to recommend, so you can see, so this here is all just Act 1, and each of these islands has a ton of stages and nodes in it, but then here's Act 2, and then Act 2 has a bunch of islands, each with a bunch of nodes in it, and then there's Act 3, which has a bunch more areas and a bunch more nodes. Now, Area 3 isn't as built out because this is the current area, so it's going to keep getting added to, but you can see there's a decent amount of nodes and stuff, right? But if you start at Act 1, which you'll have to, even on hard mode, it's extremely easy, right? So that's one thing I'm going to recommend. Then if you click on the Events tab, which is the far left button, basically what you're going to have in here is whatever the current character event is. So if we go down here, like this Return of the Queen is a current character event. So you'll see there's a bunch of stages in here and co-ops that you do with people. Now, you'll be able to do some of these earlier ones fairly easy as long as you just build up a decent team. But the Lufenia Plus, maybe even Chaos, depending on where you're at, you might not be able to do right away. Don't stress about the really hard content right away as a new player. Once again, just enjoy the game, have fun, build up resources, start building out teams. That's really the core to getting a good start. If you can build one good team of 3, basically what you want to do, have a DPS unit, have a good support unit, and the third slot can be anything. You could run a second DPS, you could run a tank, you could run another support, you could run a utility, whatever, but have at least one support that can maybe heal, one DPS, and then just a third anything. And if you just build up and grind out that one team, you're going to be able, like, by day 1, you're going to be able to clear out, like, probably 90% of the content. Like, you're going to be able to do anything other than, like, Lufenia Pluses maybe, and some people maybe even could, if you were really good about it, could maybe get to Lufenia Plus pretty early, but I wouldn't stress about doing that. There is some other hard content I'll talk about as we go through the tabs, right? So basically, you're just going to see the things at the top. These will be the time-limited missions. So yeah, if you can do some of those early on, I would, because they're going to go away and you're going to lose the rewards. So kind of just keep an eye on those, but don't stress if you can't beat something. Don't stress about it, okay? Down here, this is stuff that's kind of permanently available. You guys need to get the Mog's Gym. I would do that right away. The Mog's Gym is just some training stuff that came out and teaches you a little bit about how to play the game, but the rewards there are actually quite good. So they're going to give you a lot of stuff right away by doing the Mog's Gym. So the Mog's Gym should be one of the first things you do. And then the other thing is these crystal quests. I talked about this in the character building up guide. But basically, crystals are like one of the keys to leveling up characters. And then also characters get a lot of experience. This is kind of like your experience dungeons. So like early on when you've got like level 1 characters, start grinding out these crystal quests to level up your first main team and kind of get that going. And then the golden cactuars is really good to get you some money and gil right away. So if you need gil, it's also good for experience. So basically, when you're first starting, you're grinding quest mode, you're getting the Mog's Gym done, and you're grinding crystal quest. That's really what you should be doing for like the first main portion of what you're doing, while basically working to build a full team, right? Okay, we'll look at some of these other tabs just so we'll explain them. So the Lost Chapters, this is somewhere you can go at any time. Lost Chapters is basically a series of old character events where you can go back and play through those again, or if you've never done them before, you can play through them the first time and get rewards and also recruit new characters. In Opera Omnia, all the characters are free. You do not summon for characters in this game. You just summon for weapons, okay? So if you basically at any time, like the ones higher up are older, so they're going to be easier, and then they get harder as you go down. So once again, this is another just outlet for gaining resources, right? Just a huge outlet for resources. I cannot stress enough how many resources you get in this game. Actually, when I first started my channel, like 6-7 months ago, one of the first videos I did on Opera Omnia was just how I loved how generous the game is. And you can play this game free to play and basically get all the best stuff in the game if you know how to manage your resources well. But this is one of the most generous games for resources, one of the most free to play friendly games I've ever played. And I've played a lot of gacha games. So just keep that in mind, that you're in good hands as a free to play player in this game. You can be totally free to play and look like a whale in this game because you, once again, you don't need to buy anything. You don't need to buy gems to actually do very well in this game and get the best characters and best teams. So Lost Chapters is a place you can go fairly early because the early ones will be very easy, and just another place you can grind gems, okay, things like that, and get characters that you potentially want to use, right? The big thing is, though, in Lost Chapters, don't stress about like getting all those characters because you're not going to be able to use them because you're going to need, they'll give you like a copy of their lowest tier weapon, but you're not going to be able to actually get the advanced weapons you need for most of them, right? So just keep that in mind. I think early on, like there will be like a beginner banner or something. So I think they are going to give you guys like an EX and maybe a BT right away. So you should have like a character like right out of the box. I think is pretty good, but it's obviously been a long time since I've started a new account. I'm actually a day one player. So, but I'm pretty sure that there was something added where I know newer players get something good off the start to get you kind of rolling, right? The next section is Intersecting Wills. This literally is the same as Lost Chapters. It's very new, so there isn't much in here at the time I'm recording this. But it's the same thing. You just play through some little stories, get some more gems and rewards there. Those are going to be a lot more difficult right away, so don't stress about it. But it does have a normal and hard mode, so you could play through them on normal if you wanted to. World of Illusions. This is very significant as well. So the first two things I want to talk about World of Illusions are Carbuncle's Treasures and then the Radiant Artifact tokens. So Carbuncle's Treasures is actually the best place to go, in my opinion, to grab weapon and armor level up materials. So there's like weapon orbs and armor orbs, and you use these to power up and level up weapons and armor. So when you need that, Carbuncle's Treasure is a great place to go. Carbuncle's Treasure is not always available. So if you go into your game right now when watching the video and you don't see it, it just means it's not live right now. They typically bring this out with like celebrations and campaigns. There are long stretches where it'll just go from campaign to campaign, and this will just basically seem like it's up forever. So honestly, Carbuncle's Treasures these days seems like it's open more than it isn't, okay? So there's that. The Radiant Artifact tokens, honestly, I would just clear it once to get like the gems for first clear, but I really wouldn't stress about the artifact tokens. They've done a lot better job. Like when you get into like doing co-ops and stuff, that's really the best way to get artifacts, and it's more efficient. So don't worry about that. If you don't know what artifacts are, I talk about those in my character building guide. So just check out that guide once again at the end of the video. That'll be a nice piece to go to after this one so that you know how to actually power up your characters, right? Then you're going to see all of these trials for like Diablos, Brothers, Ifrit, Shiva. These are all the summon characters. So when you're feeling ready, you will want to go in and get these done as well. These are actually how you acquire summons in the game, and summons are actually pretty important when you get into difficult content. You're going to want to be able to use your summons and get through that way. So basically, these are stages where you go through and do nodes, and then you will get basically materials to create and bind summons and level them up, okay? So what'll happen is as you're going through these early stages, when you go into the, I believe it is the enhancement screen here, in the bottom, it'll say bind and enhance. So what'll happen is as you're leveling up your summons, you'll be able to click on it, and then you'll be able to actually click on it and level it up. See, I don't have enough materials for this one, but these are the types of materials that you collect in those quests. And then you want to level them up and get them maxed out. Getting the summons maxed out is actually a very important key to maxing out your characters, because part of what levels up characters are summon boards, which I talk about in my other video, but the summon boards are not available if you don't own the summon. So I would say fairly early in the game, guys, as you're going through, try to get all the summons acquired if possible. Okay, so we're going to go back into there. So we'll go back into World of Illusion. So you're going to see there's a bunch of stages with the same summons on them, and the reason why is this. So the trials at the bottom, this is for acquiring the summon initially. Once you've completed the trials, then you get World of Illusions Ultimate. This is where you grind up the summon boards, and once again, if you don't know what that means, I talk about it in the other video, but summon boards are a really important part to make characters stronger. Okay, and then after that, we have the World of Illusions Divine. So there's actually 3 iterations of the bosses, and they get harder on each one. The Divine, there are tons of resources to get in there as well. It's a lot of grinding, but you can just play it on auto mode if you get enough, if you get the right team comp. And basically, you get, 400 tickets and 40,000 gems for each one of these. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you can do that 6 times, right? So what, 6 times 400 is 2,400 tickets are just sitting here as a brand new player. You just have to grind them out. And then, 40k gems times 6 is what? 240,000 gems just sitting here. And that's just in this section alone, not including all the story stuff I showed you, all the Lost Chapter stuff. So the one thing, guys, as a new player, do not get overwhelmed because there is a lot of content here. Just take it slow and enjoy the game, and don't feel like you have to get to end game right away. Just enjoy it. It's fun. Build up your resources, build up your team, and just have fun with characters you like, right? Okay, so next will be the hunts. There is a daily hunt, and you want to do this every day. You'll have to have a team a little bit built up because these guys aren't, it's not like an instant pushover. I mean, if you have all maxed out characters, it is a pushover, but like I could see a first day player like not being able to beat this guy. But when you get to the point that you can, or if you can get a friend unit that's strong enough to just one shot it, you want to do this every day. You're going to get these Cactuar exchange tokens, and you can get really good items with them. So you can see there's a lot of good items in here you can grab. As a new player, you're probably going to want to get like some of these ingots, which are like good for powering up weapons and armor early on. Power stones are actually pretty important early on for a newer player. Guard tokens, you're going to need those as a new player. Like honestly, and here's the stuff for blooms, which I forgot to talk about in my first video, the character level up video. And then, yeah, I wouldn't buy crystals in here, though. Crystals are all farmable. Do not buy any crystals. I would probably avoid the power orbs and chocobo feathers, too, because that's all stuff you can just grind yourself. Draw tickets are good. Draw tickets are more for players like me, though, where, like, I have so much of these resources, I don't need them. I can just grab more draw tickets. I think as a newer player, stick to, like, this top 6 here, or like the top maybe 8 to 10 of these. Yeah, basically everything before they start showing crystals, this is all stuff that's worth grabbing for a newer player. Okay, but you want to do that daily because those reset and you'll lose them. You can stack up to 3 hunts. So the hunts, you get 1 each day, so you can stack up to 3, but don't let it go too far beyond that. Okay, so that's your daily mark. You want to do that in the hunt tab. And then there's a tab you can go over. These two are Dimensions End and Abyss. These are more like end game content, so I wouldn't stress about doing this right away. The Dimensions End Order and Pathos, and even I would say Entropy, those 3 are actually quite, like, if you build one modern team, you could crush through all of that. The problem with Dimensions End is they lock characters out. So these events, it's not that you won't be able to beat them right away, but they require large rosters. So you're going to have to do these as you build up your roster. You're not going to be able to clear through this day one because you need too many characters, okay? So this is something you can look at, but don't stress about doing that right away. That's more harder content. Abyss, same thing. What Abyss is you go through stages and nodes, but they're going to put restrictions, so you need different crystal colored characters or different weapon types, things like that. So once again, they're encouraging large rosters. So like the Abyss Normalis is not difficult by any means, but you need enough characters that you can put characters in and get through it, right? Abyss Perfectum is a lot more difficult, so you need a lot more fully built up, maxed out characters there, right? So that's basically it. I think I'm going to stop there for this first part of the intro guide. So that covers basically the main menu icons and what types of events and quests and things you should be working on as a new player. What I'm going to do is I am going to talk about blooms quick. So if you want to hear about blooms, I'm going to do that. Consider this an add-on to that first video because I forgot to do it. But if you're okay with this part for the guide, you could stop the video now. So for blooms, this is part of like increasing or maxing out characters, and it is a kind of important part that I forgot about it. So a character will have something called an active ability or AA, and in order to have it maxed out, you have to have blooms. So to get blooms, you have to go to the item exchange, and there is a bloom exchange in here. So if we go in here, here's the bloom token exchange. It's these silver tokens. You acquire these through missions. So it's not something you can farm up. You'll just have to get them slowly through missions and through the exchange shops. But I actually don't have any available because I own everyone in the game. But what would happen in here is you would find a bloom for a character. So what you do is you would buy that bloom, and then what you do is you have to enhance the bloom. So if I go into the enhancement tab and I go to enhance and realize, so on the far right, there's something called blooms, and you can see all my blooms are maxed out, but these are what blooms look like. So basically, when you want to level them up, you use these, like, I think they're called bloom feathers or something, or they kind of look like crystal feathers, but those are what you use to power up blooms, and you basically want to shove those in until it's maxed out, and then the bloom will turn blue. When the bloom turns blue, that means their AA or their active ability is maxed out. So that is an important piece to character building that I forgot to mention. Someone else also mentioned that I didn't talk about spheres and artifacts as deeply. That's just because I feel like those aren't as important as a newer player, but they are something you want to look at. So we can look at spheres and artifacts really quick at the end of this video as well. We'll just add that on, right? And then between the two videos, you should have what you need. So for artifacts, the way you get artifacts, I think the main way is from the co-op. I showed you that there was an artifact dungeon in the World of Illusions. You could run that as well, and you can exchange for them. So if we go into the item exchange again, the artifact token exchange is down here at the bottom. And these, you use them for artifact tokens that you get from that artifact quest. And literally every character in the game is here. So you would get the artifacts you want. Mainly you want to buy the gold artifacts because that's what you're going to want to power up, right? So sure, let's go ahead and just buy some. I'll just pick a random character. Like, I don't think I have Guy built up at all, right? So I'll just buy a few of these. So I'll buy 10 of them. Okay, so I just bought 10 artifacts for Guy, okay? So what happens is to enhance an artifact, you're going to go into here, go into the enhancement tab, and there's going to be under enhance and realize a section for artifacts. So I'll go down. Well, I guess I didn't need to buy Guys because I got a bunch of everybody else's, but sure. So if I click on Guy and I click auto, it'll just auto max it out for me with like these materials I have, and I'll click enhance. And then what artifacts do is it'll just add extra stats that the character can equip. So you'll see all, and it's kind of random, right? So like this attack 108 Rebellion's Gentle Warrior up, I think that's actually his best artifact. So that's a pretty good one, right? If you want to know the specific artifacts you should use on a character, I do talk about those in my character guides, but then also the Tomberry Troop does infographics. Definitely check them out. I do link the Tomberry Troop in all my videos. So just go to that link, look at the infographic for the character, and they will tell you which artifacts are best for that character, right? So then your character can only hold so many of these, so you kind of have to pick and choose which ones you want. So let's say I want to keep this attack 108, and let's say I want to get rid of that one. And then maybe there's another one. Sure, I'll keep this one, and then maybe I'll get rid of this one, okay? And then your character can hold, I think it's like 7 artifacts, but then they can only equip 3. So to equip artifacts, you'd go into the character. So we'll go into Machina here. And so then we'll go into the passive abilities, and then it'll say artifact passives at the bottom. And this is where you click and choose out of the artifacts they're holding. You tell them which ones you want equipped. Okay, so that's how you basically get and equip artifacts. But the main way you want to get artifacts is this. So if we go into like an event, and let's go into like, say, this token challenge for Dancing in Flames. These co-op missions will have shops. So you see here in the bottom left, I collect tokens and then I can exchange them. So there's a link here I can click to go right into the shop. And you can see here for the featured characters for that event, you can just buy their artifacts and they're fairly cheap. So like if I want to power up Celis, I could just buy a bunch of her artifacts out of here, and then that's how I would level her up. So I would do this instead of doing the World of Illusions quest. I would just jump in that way. But that's basically the very quick explanation of artifacts. And then we can go into spheres very quickly. So spheres, actually I should, while I'm still in there, I should have gone in here. Let me go back in. So some quests or events will have a sphere exchange. So that's this bottom shop here. So you get this different currency, and you can buy what are called, I think these are called refined spheres. So these spheres aren't as powerful as like a normal sphere, but it's still something you could throw on a character, right? To get a normal refined sphere, it's basically just if you max out their EX weapon and purple it, then you'll get a sphere, and each character gets a certain sphere that they get. So if we go in, let's say I have some spheres, right? Actually, here, let me pick a character that I don't have maxed out on spheres. Let me just go into here. And let me just find some old character that I don't have maxed out or something. Here, Kieran. Yep, I definitely don't have him maxed out, right? So if I click on this sphere thing in the bottom right, you'll see he has an A, B, and a C slot. His B slot isn't open. That's part of, like, as you max out the characters, like, all those slots will open up. But if I click on the A sphere, it'll give me a list of all the characters and what sphere they carry, and then if I have any in stock. So you'll see, like, on this Gilgamesh here, this is the refined one. It has RF next to it, so it's not as strong. So if I click on this, it does max brave and attack by 4% for 3 turns. But above that, if you look at his real sphere, it does max brave and attack by 10% for 3 turns. So the way you get this real A sphere is if I had Gilgamesh's EX weapon and I max it out, they'll give me 1 copy of the sphere. You can only use it on 1 character and then it's gone. You can't get it back unless you use like a removal stone, but those are like paid items. So you want to be very careful about where you put these, because typically once they're on there, they're on there. And, you know, if I put this Gilgamesh sphere on, I could put a different sphere over it, but then it destroys the other sphere. Once again, unless you have the removal item, which is that little gray stone that says 2 next to it at the top of my screen. But once again, that's a paid thing, so you don't want to have to bank on doing that, right? So don't stress about spheres. They do have some impact, but it's very minor. If you have a fully maxed out character, doing a run with spheres and without spheres, you're barely going to notice a difference, to be honest. So don't stress about it. There are some spheres more significant than others. I do talk about that in my character guides. But yeah, so that's basically it for spheres, artifacts, and blooms, the pieces that were not in my first beginner's guide. So hopefully this helps. This will be my second beginner's guide video. If you're a beginner and you have more questions and you want to give me advice as to what my third beginner guide video should cover, please let me know in the comments. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. We'll catch you all in the next one.